Richard Hewson is a composer, arranger, and multi-instrumentalist whose fantastic body of work spans from the late 1960s to the present day. The artists he's worked with include Mary Hopkin, The Beatles, James Taylor, Herbie Hancock, Carly Simon, Diana Ross, and many more. I recently had the chance to speak with Mr. Hewson about his wonderful score to the 1970 film Melody, which has long been a favorite of mine and is an exceptional example of a score that manages to combine arrangements of pre-existing songs with original music in service of the dramatic needs of a film. Many thanks to Richard Hewson for his time and generosity in speaking about Melody.
Well, it's the first venture into film I ever had. I would have been probably still in college, if not just out of college anyway, and called in by a guy called Ron Cass. Ron Cass was the boss.
Right.
Ron Cass had the connections with David Putnam.
Okay.
I think this is how it came about that I got that gig, because through my wife working in the office with Ron Cass, obviously picked up that they were looking for an arranger, and he had the connection with Dave Putnam, and that's how I got the job, as far as I remember, as you probably know. And I think it was his first venture into commercial films,
right?
Or a big one, anyway.
Yes, exactly. Before he went on to things like Chariots of Fire and
yeah. Well, this was before that.
Sure.
And I think it was his first one, and I do vaguely remember it was in the summer we made the film or the soundtrack. And I remember him driving me in his open-top car through London. Imagine that in those days, no parking restrictions. In a lovely sunny day to the studio. I do have that recollection of it, and David driving. So what I did was I was hired to sort of do arrangements of the Bee Gees songs for the film, for different parts of the film, but treating them in a way that would reflect the film, naturally, like the school atmosphere of the film.
Yeah.
So obviously I had to treat those songs as instrumentals with the feeling of the film, basically.
Yeah. So were you given a list of songs that, like, more of which that made it into the film? Did you have any sort of latitude or how you worked on it?
I was given a song and then told that it had to reflect what was on the picture, obviously.
Okay.
So I took instruments like recorders, because obviously that's the sort of instrument that kids at school would play.
Yeah.
And little percussion-y bits to try and make it sound like a bit of a children's song.
Well, there's a couple. In the Morning is sort of the opening track that it plays over the credits, and then there is a sort of a whistle version, a recorder version of In the Morning.
That was the recording.
And also, there's one song by the Bee Gees called Spicks and Specks. It's credited to you and children from Corona School.
Oh, right, yeah. I do believe we did have a children's choir on it, yeah. How many years ago now? It's like
basically, I think it came out in early 1971, and I think it was made in 1970. I think, like, year I was born. Yeah.
Oh wow! I was a 20-year-old or something back then. Yeah.
I discovered it when I was a teenager, and then originally it was a sort of a cult film.
Yeah, it never did very well over here, but it was amazing in Japan, apparently.
Yeah, I think I read that somewhere. Yeah, that might.
Yeah, it was huge in Japan. In Japan.
That makes sense, actually, because I think my soundtrack is a Japanese import.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I got when I used to live in Los Angeles, and I bought it there about.
Oh, right.
I don't know if I could say it goes without saying, but in my opinion, it really complements the film really well, and it does something that I think is particularly subtle, in that it really suits the mood of the film. It carries on. There's a couple of original things that you have that don't reflect the songs that are already there, because it starts off with Bee Gees songs, so you think, okay, it's going to be this, it's going to be a song score. Because when I first saw it, I thought, oh yeah, 1970, it's going to sort of be like The Graduate or something. It's just going to be songs. But then it's sort of, your score becomes this sort of the two sides of the film. It's completely scored.
Okay.
Moments that need score behind it are provided by you, but obviously the melodies of the songs are never far from what you hear, so you know what you're hearing. Right. And I think, oh, that's really nice. Yeah, and but then there's a couple of original things as well. There's something called a romance theme in F.
Yeah, now you jog my memory. Yeah. There are two that I do remember, because occasionally I see on royalty statements from Japan, romance theme in F, earning a penny or something like that. And then there was another one, which, what was it? Was it called Chase something?
Yeah. The sort of climax of the film, there's a cue called Teacher's Chase.
That's the one, yes. Now that's another one that appears, tuppence on the royalty statement. Yeah, sure. But that one, I do remember, I was really into Burt Bacharach at the time.
Oh, okay.
And if you listen, and I think that was very heavily influenced by a Burt Bacharach style of writing there for that chase sequence.
Now that you mention that, I can sort of hear it. There's some nice bends in it.
Oh wow, you remember it? Oh my God, that's right.
And also, there's a song written by you on it. I don't know if you remember that. Working on it night and day.
My goodness.
It's credited to someone named Barry Howard. I have to admit, I don't know who that is.
Oh, right. He wasn't the actor, was he? Who was the actor in that film?
There was Jack Wilde.
The younger.
And,
Jack Wilde, that's the one.
Lester, yeah.
I thought he'd sung it, actually, but obviously not. You said Barry Howard.
You had done some arranging at the time.
I must have done Mary Hopkin, Those Were the Days.
Exactly. That would have been before this.
That was definitely 68. Now, through that, I obviously got a bit of a rip because it went straight to number one. And funnily enough, it was on my first wedding day, to my first wife.
Oh, yeah.
It was number one on the day we got married. It was 8th of September, 68. Yeah, so that obviously gave me a big leg up into the arranging world, because I come out of college pretty well just before that. I didn't really get into films. I got more into records, and songs.
Yeah.
And not so much more in the film business until I did Xanadu in Hollywood with John Farrar's music.
Mm-hmm.
That was my next venture. So it was quite a long time between that. That was not till the early 80s, I think.
Yeah, good decade later.
Came along.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the space. I didn't do any film work between then and the Xanadu one. So I never was big in the film business, because I took off more, my career took off more in the arranging for, the Beatles and people like that, Carly Simon and all these people. So I was more of a record arranger really than a film man.
Mm-hmm. I presume, nowadays when someone scores a film, there's a lot of demoing. There's a lot of
I imagine so. Yeah,
the process is such that there isn't a lot left to the imagination by the time you get to the final session. So I presume you would have went in and recorded it all at once, right?
Yeah,
like you were ready.
Absolutely, that's right. I had to write it straight on a piece of paper, and he didn't even. So Putnam wouldn't have heard it until we got into the studio and played it.
Right.
And if it was wrong, it was wrong. You couldn't do much about it.
Yeah.
Because with an orchestra, obviously, you can't change it overnight, kind of thing. So, yes, that was exactly right. I wrote it and hoped for the best it would work.
Mm-hmm.
No way of demoing it, not like today.
So, presumably, it just went down a treat then?
Well, I guess so. I don't remember anybody saying it wasn't right. I did the job. Thank you very much, and off I went. And the next thing I know, whenever I saw it, which had been shortly after, I suppose it was there as I'd done it, as I'd played it. They didn't have a plan B with some other composer waiting in the wings.
Right.
No, that was it.
Good. Was there any recollections of who you might have worked with? As an arranger, were you calling the same sorts of people in when you were making music?
Yeah, well, as I say, this would have been one of my early orchestral sessions, And I had got a fixer who, they called him a fixer, the guy who
Sure.
booked the musicians, contractor in America, I think.
Yeah.
But he Tony Gilbert, not with us anymore now, but he would have booked the orchestra, the guys I liked at the time. Mostly I picked out jazz players because I started as a jazz musician, not really as an orchestral arranger. That my first foray into music was playing a jazz guitar. I mean, it was jazz guitarists around London playing in Ronnie Scott's and all these places before I went to college.
Okay.
And got some knowledge, so to speak, and then went to college to study composition and orchestration. That's how I came to be an arranger.
Right.
But I still have my jazz roots, back in those days. Jazz was the first love. So I would have picked out guys that I knew from the jazz days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have any connection to the Bee Gees at all? Did they hear the score? Did they have input?
No, absolutely none. Never met them, never heard from them, nothing. Absolutely.
Isn't that amazing?
No, never. No. All the songs were, obviously they were recorded. They're already out there. But no, I never saw or heard of them. So I don't even know whether I went to the premiere. I can't remember it.
Yeah.
No.
You're side by side on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
So do you have any comparisons between working for the screen, working for images, versus working for just an arrangement?
Yeah, it's quite a different discipline. All through the 70s, I was working for loads of people. And obviously you were then handed a song, which musically has got a beginning, middle, and an end. So you are actually restricted to that format. But with a film, if you've got, say, 3 minutes of space to put a score in, you've got the freedom to move around wherever you like, according to the film, obviously. But with arranging, you're actually stuck with a structure and chord progression of the song.
I suppose arranging would be the thing, if you had to add it all up, it may be the thing you've done the most of.
Oh, yes, definitely. My strength in the 70s was well known as an arranger for lots of people, as I say.
Yeah.
The Long and Winding Road. For the Long and Winding Road, I got the princely sum of £40. Now, can you imagine how much money that song has made over the years?
It may be making money as we speak.
Exactly. But I'm not complaining, because that was the deal in the day, and still is.
Sure.
That you don't get royalties for arrangement. But at the end of the 70s, I decided, okay, I'm going to do my own stuff, because that's the only way I'm going to ever make a decent living. And that's why I changed to writing my own stuff.
Do you recall how long you would have been given for something like this?
Maybe 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, I should think. Yeah. So it was like night and day, working night and day. In fact, that reminds me, was that the name of the song?
It was indeed, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's what I would have been doing, working on it night and day. Maybe that's how we called the song.
May very well
be. Because you wouldn't get much time in those days, because those things then, once somebody got the idea, let's have an orchestra. Okay, how quick can you do it?
Yeah. So did you have a particular method of doing these things, or was it just literally working until you fell over?
Nowadays, I'm still working. I'm still doing arrangements and records and everything even now. But I have a very strict routine now, a bit like, I don't know whether you know much about Igor Stravinsky, my favorite 20th century composer.
Oh, yes.
But he, like me, well, I copied him because he's long gone, but he had a routine. He would start work at 9 o'clock, finish at 1, have a lunch, then he'd have a nap. I don't do that. But he'd work I work from 9 to 1 and then have lunch, finish from 2 to 6 every day.
Right.
And that's how I routine. Back in those days, I don't think I was that regimented. I think I probably just worked on it because I was, young. You just worked on it and worked at it all night or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.